brush today that I think I want to use. This is a flat that I used in a few different paintings a while back. I used to do this in a lot of ASMR painting videos. Need to put a few more colors on the palette first. We're kind of running low on some stuff. That's alright. We've got just the thing right here. A little extra there. It's okay. I'm glad that I found this flat brush. The one that I was using it's not bad, but it's, well, it is a little small, which is not a bad thing or a good thing. It just depends on what you want to use it for. Like, I was using it to get a kind of softer feel. It's softer bristles. I think it was intended to be a watercolor brush, but really you can do whatever you want with a brush, regardless of what the label on it says. I don't know if you knew that, but you do now. I imagine there are people out there that got a lot of opinions about that, but, well, I did paint with it, so I guess the results speak for themselves. Well, yeah, it's a pretty decent painting so far. Sometimes I get a little hard on myself. Sometimes I look at my painting and go, that's whatever. It's no good. I think we all do that. Need some white there. God, I got my paint all over the place. I probably should organize some of this, but I just can't be bothered. Alright, there's a big old pile of it right there. That's good. That's the stuff. Alright, I think we're about ready to get painting. I think we're going to concentrate on some of what's going on over here. That little slice of wall over there that, well, we made that sheet over there a little too high, didn't we? Yeah. Yeah, maybe we did. That's okay, we can fix it. There's no law that says we can't go in and fix it after the fact. Okay. How does that look? That doesn't look too bad. Just a little bit more. A little bit more. I might want to think about adding a little bit of sap green to this. I know that sounds crazy, but I think a little bit of sap green would, just the lightest touch of sap green would go well with this, I think. So let's just get a little bit. I've been meaning to start using some sap green here anyway. I know sap green without a landscape painting sounds crazy, but you know, sap green is just one of those colors that has a tendency to go into everything. It's a very useful color. It's just bright enough that, well, yeah, honestly it depends on which sap green you're using, because some sap greens are all over the place, but I like to use a sap green that's a little bit on the bright side. Not too bright, but bright enough that you start to notice it. Okay, and mixed with yellow, this does look very vibrant, but not too vibrant. It's all about the middle ground. Okay, I think we got a color that's going to work pretty well here. It's probably going to be barely noticeable as is, but I'm going to notice it, and that's what really matters. Yeah, I'm going to be the happy one here. And I gotta say, I am pretty happy with that color so far. That's a pretty nice color. That's not bad at all. I think we need to bring the cat over here all the way over to this edge. Made the cat a little bit too small. Yeah, we're still fixing proportions. That's alright. At least we're on the right track now. Realizing that I might have made this yellow a little vibrant. Couch a little too high, yellow a little bit vibrant. I don't know. Maybe we'll think about adding a few things over here, just make this stand out slightly, because we're going to have bits and pieces of this lamp that we're going to work on in the meantime too. Although as it goes into the background here, I think we're going to make things a little bit more shadowy. We need definitely some sort of color to stand out against those candles over there. As it is, it's alright. I think I'm going to go with like a violet over here. We've already got kind of a gray going on, but maybe we'll add, I don't know, this is already kind of a, maybe we'll just add a little bit of alizarin to that. See how it looks. Don't want it to get too crazy. Yeah, maybe we'll add some white to that. It's a very, very muted violet color. Very, very muted. We don't want things to be too dark here. This is going to be kind of a highlight shadow, I guess you might call it. Maybe. Here. Let's just take another piece of white and just make another pile right over here. If you ever have trouble lightening up your painting, or lightening up a color to just the color you want, one of the best things you can do is just take white and go to another part of the palette with that color that you just made, and the white will start to overpower it and get it somewhere more in the ballpark of where you want to go. And I'm already getting more in the ballpark of what I want here. Thank goodness. Okay, so let's just... It's very, very subtle the way that we're doing this right now, right? Like that. We're already seeing some things happen, I think. And that color, one of those colors that we whipped up, might actually work pretty well off to the side over here. Right around here. Just there. There. Maybe even the darker one might work too, because we got some dark violet shadows that we could work with. And that's looking pretty neat, I think. Yeah, it's not looking bad at all. Maybe we'll do it over here too. Start getting some things in, so we can start seeing those candles, because it's kind of hard to see them right now, isn't it? Then what we might do, we could make those a little bit bluer, and that might be something we could do. Maybe. I'm a little bit hesitant to do it, but I don't know. A little bit hesitant. Here, we'll just try something. We'll see how it looks. Right about here. Just put that in. See how that looks against it? That doesn't look too bad. Yeah. Mix it up with those violets. There. Might even be a little bit of a shadow over to the side here. Add it right about here. Yeah, right about there. Right about there. It's looking pretty okay. We can refine that. We can also, well, we can always like paint over stuff too. I kind of like the way it looks, but I'll see how I feel a little bit. Yeah, that's one of those things about painting. You're always going to see how you feel about it a little bit, because you might not like what you did later. Well, that's the thing about painting. It is the sum of the wholes. The sum of many parts, I guess we could say. Now that, well, there's probably a better way of phrasing it. It is the sum of many parts that go into it, and not just one perfect brushstroke. Painting is hard, man. It's mentally taxing at times. Some people think it's all fun and games, but, you know, it's serious business. Yeah, it's serious business. And we gotta find a way to cope with it. So we kinda got a nice pink over here, I think. What if we take some of our cadmium and start planting some highlights over here? Some very light highlights. Maybe it's about time to do something with this pillow. I got a little too much cadmium on my palette just now. Yeah, got a little too much on there. Oopsie daisies. Yeah, well, good thing there's a lot we can do with this. So, hope everyone out there is having an okay day, guys. Today for me has been pretty alright. I watched a movie today. I was on Tubi and I decided, let's check this out. And, well, I did. I checked out this movie called Checkmate. It was interesting. I'll give it that. It was better made than I thought it would be. Yeah, that's probably a very charitable way of putting it. Better made than I thought it would be. Was it good? Well, I don't know. I'll say that Tubi knows their audience. It was entertaining, though. It could have been absolutely awful, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't that bad. Yeah, let me put down my brush for a second, because we need to make sure we have just the right color here. Otherwise, this is going to be a little bit difficult to manage. How are we doing over here? Let's add just a little bit more white to that. This is going to be kind of a fleshy color. An oddly fleshy color. Yeah, it's going to be one of those. One of those colors, guys. Okay, I think I have about the right color that I'm looking for. Let's dab this in right here. Right about there. Doesn't look too much different from what we already did, I think. But it's marginally different. The alizarin crimson really stands out, I guess you could say. Let's add a little bit more white on that too. We're going to add a couple of things that are very, very white here. So let's take some of this and grab a big piece of white. I've been thinking about what I'm going to do for the 4th of July. I don't know, I don't really like fireworks or anything. I think I used to like fireworks when I was a kid. I remember I used to go to like the supermarket with my mom, and we would get sparklers, we would get some pack of fireworks they had in a tent outside the store. I'm not sure if the tent was totally legal, but you know, it existed. And you know, in hindsight, I think my mom did a lot to try and have a fun childhood for me. She was a single mom. Not because she got divorced or anything, but my dad passed away. And she had a tough time I think making things, well, you know, it's just the same challenges that every single mom faces. They have their trials and tribulations they have to deal with. But it wasn't a product of divorce or anything. It's just my dad passed away. So she had to figure it out all by herself. And I can't imagine that was all too easy. No, not really. Especially when I was kind of a handful in hindsight. Yeah, a little bit. That could have been a lot nicer, I think. You know, there's that thing again. There's that old phrase, would've, should've, could've. You know, hindsight is always 20/20, guys. You can say you'd have done things differently, but well, things just are the way they are, and you gotta learn to live with them, you know. Okay. This is kind of turning into a fleshy color. I don't know about this one. I think we're going to roll with it for right now, but yeah, it's just kind of a pastel color I'm trying to whip up. Oh, my mother. I spent a lot, what we would do is have a bonfire at my grandma's house, and we would light the fireworks next to the lake. Everybody there was doing it. It wasn't just us. So they were having a fireworks show on the water. There were people who were just lighting fireworks very leisurely on their own properties. Everybody was just having fun on the 4th, so we did the same thing. So I guess you could say we were just like everybody else. Yeah. Yeah, we kind of were. Alright. Let me see here. I think I'm going to get a little bit of this off on the side, right here. Mixed feelings about this. I might go in with some dabs of color that are a little bit more lively, I guess. This feels okay-ish, but it feels like it could be a little bit more interesting. I feel like I'm saying that a lot. This could be more interesting. Well, you know, I'm trying out new things painting. And I like trying out new things. I don't like to keep doing the same thing again and again and again. Feels like that's an easy way to get real complacent, real fast, and just get too comfortable with what you're doing. I've been thinking a lot about my watercolor paintings recently. Sometimes I think about, like, what colors I use and why am I using them and stuff like that. Like, watercolors, I've been doing some pretty vibrant watercolors with a series of colors. And I think some of the best watercolors I ever did were with these colors that my girlfriend got me a long time ago. It's because of her that I started doing all the watercolor painting that I did. Yeah, let's see how this looks once we put this down. This is just more or less pure cadmium right at this point, I think. Yeah. I found a round brush that I used to use for my ASMR stuff too. I'm thinking about getting that out. See, we can see this color a little bit better now. Yeah, this is a little bit brighter. I kind of like that. I feel like the color that I'm gonna use very shortly is gonna be like a Prussian blue type color. Maybe. Well, maybe a little bit Prussian blue, maybe a little bit Viridian, because what I would really like to do okay, we'll just, there's going to be a slight curve up here. Yeah, I'm going to, boy, this is a kind of a complex pattern that we're putting down here. A little bit. I think I'm going to try, what I'll do here is I'll lay down the white part first, and then we'll put the line going down through it, and that'll make this a little bit easier to manage. Here, it's a little bit of that cadmium red with white there. Cadmium red light. This cadmium red light that I'm using is a little bit more of a middle red than I typically like, because I'm a big fan of Cadmium Scarlet by Winsor Newton. It's been a color I've been using for ages. I absolutely adore the color. It's one of the most useful colors I think I've ever painted. This is already looking pretty fascinating. I think ultimately that there's a certain way I like to do things oil painting, and then there's a certain way I like to do things with watercolor, because what works in watercolor doesn't necessarily work with oil painting, and vice versa. And painting is weird like that, guys. Like painting with a bunch of opaque colors, sometimes it works in watercolor, but it doesn't work as well as, say, having more transparent colors on the palette does. Whereas in oil painting, opaque colors work great. Transparent colors are pretty okay sometimes too, but opaque colors are really, really nice. Alright, let's get out some Prussian blue, I think. Yeah, I got my tube right here. And Prussian blue is so great. It's so, well, one, it's cheap. That's one big thing right there. It's very cheap. I like that about it for sure. Here, before we do that, let's just add a little bit of white to this sap green I'm using. A little bit more white, because I want to get a pastel color that's right over here, right over there. We're going to add a touch of yellow to that. Okay, right about in there. Okay, I think I've got the color I'm looking for. I think this is going to just be a little bit of my sap green and my Viridian, probably. Right about here where this candle is, I think is where we're going to put this. Just right there. I might have gotten a little heavy-handed with my pillow earlier when I was doing this, but generally the edge should go right about to here, I think. Yeah. Let's try to follow the line of the pillow. The edge of this should go to about right here in the center-ish. Right about there. God, I can't wait to finish most of this background so we can start concentrating more on the figure. We may just have to concentrate more on the figure regardless, because eventually we're going to have to start focusing on all the relationships around the figure and its environment. Hopefully, it'll all work out for us. Nah, it'll be fine. It'll be okay. Alright, now we can focus on that Prussian blue that I was talking about. I just really wanted to use that sap green that I had. Yeah, sometimes you get a little impatient. It's alright. Alright, Prussian blue. Let's do what we did in the last video. And let's just have a little dab of Prussian blue. Just the smallest dab, because Prussian blue is so strong. Prussian blue a lot, guys. It is so much. It's a very aggressive color. Even with just the smallest dab, it will overpower white easy. To the point where, oh, you better just grab another glob of white and try that again, champ. Yikes. Okay, see how that looks. Still very blue. We want this to be mostly white. Mostly white. Okay. I think we've gotten somewhere in the ballpark now. That's better. Cool. Now let's try not to screw this up. Easier said than done. That is Prussian blue with a little white. Right there, guys. Matter of fact, we might use this. Try and get the color exact. Or at least to highlight some areas. And it's going to curve right up there. Okay. And right about here too. Right about right there. I think this would feel better if it had some viridian in it. Not too much. Just a little bit. Because the viridian would probably vibrate against the reds that we're putting down here. So far, so good. I think some of the mud color that I've been painting with has kind of gotten into the paint, which is not a bad thing at all, I don't think. No, it's not. No, it's not. Okay. Right about there, and then I think right about here is where those other slices are going to be, those other patches of white, or not even white, just a highlight. Okay. God, this is kind of an ugly pillow, isn't it? Yeah, a little bit. I don't know about this pillow. It's not a very pretty pillow, but I guess not everything needs to be pretty, does it? Nah, maybe not. Still, yikes. This is the sort of pillow you just kind of keep hidden from company, I think. God. Ugly, ugly pillow. Egads. Alright. Right about there, I think. That's where that's gonna go. And right about ballpark right there, I think. Yeah, that's gonna work for me. Yeah, let's put it over here actually, because the head is gonna come over this way a little bit. So right about here. There. Alright, so we might have biffed that one a little bit, but that's okay. Alright, we'll focus on the rest of the pillow later, I think. God, all these colors are getting to be a little bit unmanageable. Me and my tiny palette. This tiny palette. It's so small. Here, wish you'd probably scrape a few things off and get it mixed up with our mud. Alright, so first things first, let's see if we can whip up a little something here. I think we're kind of on the right track with that one color on the side. I think I'm going to get some of it over to the other side here. This other patch of the pillow. Alright. Right here. Yeah, it's a very muted color. That sap green and that orange mix work very well for this. I like the way that looks. Plus that alizarin that we put down last night, it's kind of mixing into it and making it a little bit duller as we go. Okay. Now let's see if we can close the gap on that. No, nah, we're just gonna let it go. Right now we're gonna let it go. Okay. And let's clear off the palette slightly so we can get a little bit of, I want to get some Viridian in this. We really need to get some Viridian in this. Okay. I almost pulled off Thale Green. That would have really put a little something in the painting, you know? Yeah, that would have done the trick very quickly. Ooh, boy. Viridian, that's what we're looking for. I found it. Man. I don't always have a hard time finding my Viridian. I don't know. But I found it, so it's all good. Anyway. This Viridian. We want it to be, I think, kind of a pastel color. Much like the other day. That's getting to look pretty nice already, actually. I think we're going to do a mosaic of like cadmium yellow and Viridian and see what it looks like. I bet you it's going to look pretty together. I bet you it'll look very nice. Alright, let's try that. Let's see what that looks like. Because, I don't know, something about that sap green doesn't look quite right to me. But a little cadmium yellow and Viridian, I think we're going to be in business. But we don't want to mix them too much. We want to be very selective about how much we mix things. Because unmixed color can look a little bit more interesting than mixing things perfectly. Okay. Now let's try and get cadmium yellow to about the same value over here to the side. I'm just going to mix that. Yellow is already a pretty light value color, honestly. Yellow's the lightest value color there is aside from white. So, I don't know. How light can we really make it? Well, I guess we can find out together. Feels like we're not quite light enough yet, though. We're getting there. I think one more round of white on that is going to fix it up. Yeah. Here, let's see how this goes now that we have that. That's interesting. Interesting indeed. We'll just leave it like that. Maybe add a little bit more Viridian here and there. Boy, that's a strange mix, isn't it? A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. Okay. I just add a whole bunch of white into this yellow. I haven't really been mixing anything into this yellow, I don't think. I think we've got a color that's going to work pretty good for what we want to put over here. Yeah, let's just put that in too. Right there, guys. may need to be a little bit more yellow, actually. I guess that's the problem we want to have. Here. There. That's about how yellow we want to get it. Looking better and better. Alright, let's make a decision about what we want to do here. Yeah, maybe we'll divert a little bit of focus away from the pillow, because we have been doing a lot with the pillow today. Yeah, we've been doing a bit with the pillow, haven't we? Well, we gotta work on it at some point, right? Yeah. We can't just ignore it the whole time, like we have been. Yeah. Yeah. Alright. I've got a color here that's going to be a little bit more intense, I think. I think we're just going to sneak some more cadmium yellow in there, so it becomes a little bit more orange. And if we mix that with the white, I think we'll have something pretty close to what we're looking for. There. Right about here. Yeah. That's about it. There's that pastel kind of salmon color. The way cadmiums behave is so fascinating at times. It really is. Its behavior is strange, but beautiful. Okay. I think. I think we might do something with the Prussian blue for a lot of this. Yeah. Feels like we might need something for that. Alright, let's try it, guys. Yeah, let's try it. We're going to redo the sheet a little bit. Not too much, but a little bit. And we're going to take some of that Prussian blue that we had mixed up. This is just strange painting at times. I guess it doesn't have to be. We could do things pretty straightforward. But it's not as fun when we do things straightforward. We do things straightforward. Well, sometimes color relationships are still fascinating. And indeed, we are coming up with some pretty cool things, even if we're not using a bunch of pointless technique or anything like that. Because a lot of pointless technique, if you could go back and look at the point list of yesteryear, relies on a lot of unmixed color. It relies a lot on optical mixing. But I think you have to have some grays in your painting, or you should have some grays in your painting to really help it vibrate. like the grays really, you can accent the painting a little bit with various colors and doodads and things like that. But those grays really set the tone for the painting. They make it, it makes the high key color a little bit more interesting than it would be if it were just existing all the time. Of course, mixing things with complementary colors in them tends to, we use complementary colors to notate shadow areas. I think that it does help make things interesting again. Sorry, I'm trying to pay attention to what I'm doing here. Sometimes it's difficult to talk and paint at the same time. Well, that is the challenge, I suppose. Okay, we got ourselves a nice little gray color there. I wonder what else we can put in here. I know. I have an idea. Let's take a little cadmium yellow deep and mix it in with our mud color. Just a small amount. Okay. Because the mixing complement / visual complement for Prussian blue is a touch of this orange color right here. An orange yellow is the mixing complement for Prussian blue. Alright. Things are shaping up here. Let's curve that in just slightly and then make sure that everything is in proportion the way that we want it. Let's see, let's just bring it down to about yay height. That's probably about fine, honestly. Cool. And then maybe we'll use some more of that color we whipped up. A little bit more of the Prussian blue on that. A little bit more white. Try to capture the curve on there. There's going to be a little something, another pillow that's right behind it that we're going to see a design for. So we'll leave a little bit of space right there. By and large, we're getting the essence of things. This is working. Let me try something I'm going to make this color a little bit lighter now by mixing in some of the Prussian. Let's see how it looks. It looks a little bit lighter. Let's see where it takes us. Right about there is where I want that to go to. God. Man, do we want some more yellow in there? We might have to get some more yellow in there. Maybe. God. Feels like it's not yellow enough. It's just yellow permeating the entire painting, I think. And we also have to get this big cat over here too. This cat isn't big enough. This cat feels small. The cat feels small. She is a big girl. Yeah, well, she can't help it. She tries. There, right about in here is going to be where there's going to be some of that color. Right about in here, there's going to be a little bit of a drop down right there. Yeah. It's going to curve there. And then a little space right here. It's interesting when we do this. Yeah. You can kind of see where all the colors are going and all that. It's difficult to get some of these notated. Just because folds are complicated. Well, I guess if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, right? Everybody would be doing it. Everybody can paint, but God, not everybody wants to. Because it's hard. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, a little bit more right there. At least some of this is starting to feel more solid, I think. Yeah, I was feeling a little bit. Yeah, I was feeling a little bit. What's the word for it? Thin. Yeah, thin is the right word. It was feeling very thin, and it really, really needed more work. Still does need a lot of work, but I think it's better than it was. I think I'm going to concentrate with some of this gray mud that I've gathered. Oh no, I got a hair in it. That's no good. There's a hair in my mud. God, that happens sometimes. It's one of those byproducts of having long hair. Sometimes it kind of just gets in everything. Yeah. Sometimes it do. Alright. Let's get some yellow here. And then maybe a touch of red. I think a touch of red would do us good. Because poor kitty can't be too yellow. Nah, she shouldn't be too yellow. She don't want to be too red either. I'm looking for kind of an ochre color, I think. Maybe. Yeah, kind of an ochre-ish color for her. There she goes. Right about right here. Right let's bring her body down to about right there. Because she needs to be lower. We're going to repaint some of these shadows on her, but that is the basis of her fur color, I think, that we've got going on. Or at least the undertone of her fur color. A lot of her, she's very brown, but when you look underneath the fur, you see these hints of that very earthy orange. It's a very pretty color. It's that time where we gotta scrape the palette clean. We're gonna walk away with a whole lot of extra paint. Well, if there's colors that we haven't used too much of, like Viridian and Cadmium Red Light, we can't leave them on the palette. We don't have to use them and blend them in immediately, I don't think. Because they'll keep until the next day. They don't dry super fast. Especially when it's just a little pellet of them like we have here. But generally, yeah, we want to clear things off for the next session. Make ourselves an even bigger pile of mud than we already have. We're going to have to start doing more with this mud, I think. I know I keep saying that, but we really need to. What we'll probably do next time is start using this as the basis for all of our mixes. Focus on the darker colors that we have to work with. It'll make things a little bit more interesting that way. Okay. Like I say, when we have our high key color, it's more interesting if we have some more gray areas for it to play with. Otherwise, well, you know, we do run the risk of the painting being just overwhelming.